Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. This is going to be a little bit of a different video, so if you're not interested in Fivem and hearing some drama and some exposing of some things that happen behind the scenes, then you can go ahead and skip this video and, watch for the next one. But I do recommend you give this video a watch, as it's going to touch on a lot of things that I think a lot of people would be interested in hearing, especially because of my background as an ex-staff member for a certain Fivem staff network. I'm not going to say the name of this network as it is a pretty big staff network, and it's a big Fivem server network. But in terms of this server network, we're just going to go ahead and discuss some of the practices that they use and some of the disgusting things that have happened to me as an ex-staff member. And I just want to discuss that with you guys so you guys can be better aware of where you're putting your money into, and just, be careful in terms of Fivem, because there's a lot of predatory things that go on that people don't know about. And it does look very fun. The streamers make it look fun, but there's a predatory side to it that I want to get into. Now, discussing this Fivem server, like I said, I'm not going to say the name of this server, but if you want to DM me, I'd be more than happy to let you know what servers to stay away from. Give you a general idea and just point you away from certain horrible servers that are going to give you, you know, point you away from this specific network of servers. Now, I'm not going to get into it publicly just because it's better for me to not put any names out there. I'd rather it stay anonymous, and I'd rather just, say it's a network. Now, this network, it does have a couple of letters and a number in the name. I'm not going to say what those are, but, to each their own. If you guys want to go ahead and theorize, that's up to you. Now, this server that I used to be staff for, to give you guys a little bit of perspective, I was a senior admin as well as a head car developer. What that basically meant was my duties in that staff team were basically focusing solely on the car aspect, but I was also touching on literally everything else because we were pretty short staffed and it was a newer city. Now, this city, it's not really a small city. They do make thousands of dollars, so don't think that this is, oh, like 10-20 people play on this. No, this is a pretty big widespread issue, which is the reason why I'm doing this video, because it's a predatory network that more than likely a lot of people are playing in, and I want those people to just avoid it. Now, one thing that I want to discuss is to give some context, I want to discuss the cars and their prices. I think as a gacha player and just in general, pricing wise, it would give you guys a great idea just how ridiculous these prices can get, right? So starting off with the base price for a car in this network, it would be $50 for a base car, which is already in the city. So that's a car that somebody has already brought in. $50 for a car, right? You think, oh, that's not too bad, $50. Okay, now we move on to the next tier of car, which is a fresh import. This is a car that is not yet in city and that has not been brought into city, but someone is interested in bringing in. Now my job as a car tuner, that is to approve these vehicles, and if it's not already in city, great, I bring it in. And I let this person send the file, and then from there, I work on the file. Now each city has their standards. I set the standard for the city, and I did them a great favor because while they were shitting themselves because they had no car tuner, I owned up and I managed to teach myself how to do it. And while being forced to teach myself how to do it, I also had to teach other people because my server director had specifically instructed that you have to teach yourself. And next thing you know, once I teach myself, he forces me to teach other people. This coming from someone who knows how to tune cars himself, but just didn't want to do it because he was too lazy and too busy, quote unquote, to do it. But yeah, he didn't have anything else to do. Now, this server director's name, I'm not going to put it out there, but it did rhyme with shitty. I'm not going to say what his name is. If you want to go ahead and look at a couple of server lists, I can't stop you. The name does rhyme with shitty, like I said. So it is what it is. Now, as far as this server goes, continuing with the prices, $100, right? My job once someone brings in a car is to remove any badges from these vehicles because they're not allowed to have badges, which basically means that any branding, so Subaru, Nissan, any of that needs to be removed, right? Because, it's Fivem, licensing issues, and Rockstar is being a lot more serious, so those things fell to me. Now, I didn't mind doing these things, and I did them all while also having a full-time job. I worked hard on these vehicles while also, losing sleep myself because it's a lot of vehicles. It's a big city. There's a lot of players and a lot of donations constantly coming in, a lot of sales that I also helped make, and I also helped come up with, bundles that we could do that would help drive sales forward. Now, because of this, we made a lot of money. These bundles aren't cheap either. They're $300 to $400 a bundle. Now, I'm not saying anything in terms of the money. That's great for the server. It's making profit. But in terms of these players, it's kind of unfortunate to see them spend a large amount of money, especially so often because a lot of these donators are repeat donators and they're basically constantly getting milked by the staff just to repeatedly reap the benefits and meet their money deadlines. Now, the reason I want to bring these kinds of things up and bring it to your attention is if you play on one of these servers and you notice staff are extremely friendly with you and they're constantly trying to get you to buy things, I would recommend steering away from that. Don't spend your money on these things because not everything is permanent. All it takes is one ban or one person to get mad at you, which we'll get into later, and all your stuff is gone. Now, the higher tier of vehicle, we already spoke about $50 to $100 vehicles. Now there's another tier. This is a one-of-one import, which is a vehicle that basically if you pay for it, you can bring it in and it'll be the only vehicle of its kind in the city. Now this kind of vehicle is very expensive. It's $200 to bring one in. Now if you want, you could also add an additional add-on, which is to make it a slider, which is basically you do a command. I'll go ahead and expose this. All you do is you in the vehicle's layout, which is a file for Fivem cars. They have a car calls, car variations, and they have a vehicle meta. All you literally do is you go into the vehicle meta and you just change the format of the seating. So if it's one seat, so I'll give an example because like I said, I was the head car developer, so I know how this thing works. And I'll also go ahead and put it up on the screen as well for those of you to see. So basically, in terms of changing the layout, all you would do is if it's a layout standard vehicle, you would change it to Delta Layout STD, which is the layout mode for it, and it would become slider enabled. Now what this basically meant was you could basically shoot out of the vehicle in city. Now for this one little addition, guess how much they charge, which is just simply changing text. They charged $50 additional on top of $200 for the car itself. So in total, you're paying $250 for a vehicle to be able to shoot out of it, which literally takes about 5 to 10 seconds for the person doing the cars to do. And from this total $250, the car person who gets paid, they only get paid if this is a brand new vehicle to the network. So if it's already been added to any other city, of course they don't get paid for any of the work they're doing. It's free labor. That's the caveat. So in terms of these vehicles, the car person doesn't really get paid much, but that's one of the only ways you can get paid in terms of staffing in Fivem. Unless you're that or a server director, most people don't get paid. They just work for free and they're volunteering their time. That's great and all. None of this is about the money. This is kind of about the money in terms of the donator side, not really about the staff side that we're discussing. But I did want to put that out there for full transparency so it doesn't look like I'm hiding anything. Now in terms of businesses, that's an even more predatory practice that I want to get into. This specific server network charges for businesses in a different way. They charge for the MLO and the script separate. If you look into Fivem businesses, the way they work, there's two different files that need to be purchased for the business. Now you need to buy the business's MLO, which is basically the building itself, and then you need to buy the script. The script is basically what gives the functionality, so it'll give you, like a fridge, it'll give you items, things like that. Now to clarify, the person who's paying for this, so the donator themselves, has to procure these. My job was also to make things easier. I went ahead and found these files separately and I put them into the server so that people could know. And basically it made it easier because they're all in one channel accessible, and I went ahead and did that for the people so that they could have an easier showcase of the businesses. Now the way this works is basically they would pick out the business MLO and script, and then from the MLO and script, once they were confirmed if it could be brought into the city, the person would pay for the file. Now this is one thing, they have to pay for the file with the company itself. So for example, whatever file they're buying, let's just say if they're buying an ice cream shop, they would buy the ice cream MLO and script. Some scripts and MLOs are cheaper, some are more expensive, some can range from $40 to less to more. They're pretty expensive for the files. Now on top of that, that's just to get the files from the business itself. Now to actually add it to the city, it is $449 for a tier 3. Basically the tiers are decided on how nice the business is and what the area is, and basically how much money they think they can get out of this donator. So they'll start off with a tier 3, and then if they can't really sell it for that much and the person's being hard and the person's playing hard to get, they'll go ahead and lower it to a tier 2. So from $449 for the MLO, it'll go down to $399 or $349 at the lowest. That's just for the MLO. Now we're talking script. $399.99 for the script at the most expensive, $349.99 for the tier 2 business script, or $299.99 for the tier 1 business script. Now this is just to add the script, and then you also have to add the MLO. So adding the MLO and the script is $449.99 plus $399.99. So I'll go ahead and put the calculations on the screen. This is somewhere above $800. Don't really remember the exact calculations, but that's how much it is. Now, these donations, if they're done through the website, I'm not gonna say it, they obviously use Tebex, but it's one of the more popular websites that Fivem companies use in terms of donations. So of course they use Tebex. Now, if you donate through Tebex, of course you're taxed. So these purchases end up being really big and really, expensive purchases for somebody. You're talking close to $1,000 to buy a business in a video game. Yeah, you heard me right. It's close to $1,000 to buy a business in said video game. Now, where does all of this tie in? So, I used to be staff for this certain network, like I said, and I did have a lot of things in this city because I played for a long time since it opened. I was also a part of another city previously that once basically the population got too low, regardless of donations, they shut it down because it wasn't profitable. So what that basically meant is anybody who was playing in that city lost all of their shit, and they were shit out of luck unless they donated recently, and they got some of their items back, but pretty much jack shit because most of your stuff that you grinded for is gone, including all of your vehicles that each one cost $200, by the way. Um, Moving on though, this new city, I went ahead and I grinded to get all my stuff back while also being staff. So by the end of it being staff and with all of the cars that I was tuning and stuff like that, I was able to bring in a lot of vehicles and buy vehicles from other players. By the end of it, I had about 20 vehicles. I had 2 businesses, and of course, my server director was upset about that. Me wanting to leave staff, and then on top of that, having all of these assets, he was very upset because he wanted some of the stuff and he couldn't get it. Why would I want to give stuff to somebody who's an asshole and whose name rhymes with shitty? I don't know. I don't know why he thought I would want to, but he decided it would be funny to ask me, hey, can I get one of your cars? So I told him, no, I'm going to give it to another staff member just because, he asked me about it. And I was like, well, now I'm going to give it to someone else because if I have to give it to somebody, I would rather go to someone good. So I mentioned to him that I'm going to give it to another staff member. He approved it. And then once he's upset because I'm telling him no again, that he cannot have any of my vehicles, he gets upset and decides, well, I'm going to have to repossess all of your belongings. This is 20 one-of-one vehicles. Each one of these $200. Now let's go ahead and do the calculations real quick. $200 times 20 of these said vehicles. So in my possession in this Fivem server, I had $4,000 worth of vehicles. Of course, I didn't pay for them. These vehicles were paid for by donators in the city who wanted to, be nice. So they would, during bundles, they would go ahead and, for example, buy a package that had two one-of-one cars in it, and then they would let me have the two one-of-ones, and then I would just pick what I wanted to bring in because I'm the car tuner. So from there, all I have to do is use that credit from that bundle and go ahead and pick what I want, and then I pay for it in city. Of course, I give the person whatever they want in city. So for example, I would grind. I had my business, so I had a lot of money in city, so I could just give them the money, whatever they wanted, for those two one-on-one tokens, whatever it was worth. Now, $4,000 worth of cars is a lot of assets, of course, so I was going to go ahead and give this to a friend of mine because I didn't want it to go to waste. Now, my server director didn't like this, and like I said, he decided to go ahead and repossess it all, which is part of the reason why I'm making this video, because I wanted to expose this practice that a lot of Fivem servers do, where basically if you leave the server or decide that you're no longer going to be playing, or if you're even gone for just a little bit, they'll go ahead and repossess your belongings. This network is very infamous for doing so. They'll go ahead and take your vehicles, they'll take your anything you donate for. So you could spend thousands of dollars in this city and the next day it's all gone. Like I said, none of this was paid for out of my own pocket, but it was paid for by someone. It was paid for by our donators, people who supported our server and wanted to help out. And I don't think it's right that they were scammed out of their money. Now, the main reason that I am making this video is just simply to shed light on the situations that are happening in these Fivem servers. One thing that I do want people to take out of this is just to make sure you're spending your money wisely. Don't buy things in a server, especially because you never know if you could get falsely banned. A lot of servers use anti-cheat, and I've seen a lot of instances of top donators or even just donators of the server getting banned falsely. And then a staff member who doesn't know what they're doing will leave them banned and they won't unban them. And that person now has to pay a $300 to $500 fee. Yeah, you heard me right. To unban, they charge like $300 to $500. They'll charge however much they think they can get out of the donator. And then based off of that is how much they charge for the unban fee. Vinny has their own prices. That's one of the anti-cheats that's mostly used. But of course, the servers will decide their own prices and the unban fee for that player for, of course, cheating and stuff like that. Now, the reason that I am bringing all this up, like I said, is to simply spread awareness, because I don't think it's right, and I believe that people should know where they're spending their money. And because I know Fivem is a very popular thing for people to play, it was something that I did play for a while, so that's why I can see why people are addicted to it. And because I was staff, I saw a different side of it that many people don't really know about. So having that information is really important for me to share to people. So I really hope you guys are able to take something out of this video. If you guys need further evidence or further proof, I would be more than happy to make another video discussing more and getting into more details. Just go ahead and leave a comment if you have any other questions. But for now, this is just what I'm providing for facts, and I'm providing information so that people can make better decisions and avoid falling into the same traps that I know a lot of the donators in this city have fallen into, especially when they notice the decline when the population starts to decrease. And then they're like, oh shit, I spent a lot of money here and now the city's dying. What do I do? And like I said, if you ever think of chargebacking or telling your bank like, oh, this, I don't want these charges anymore, like I didn't get what I wanted, this shit, or this city closed down, whatever you want to say, they will literally ban you across all of their cities because it is a multi-network city. So they have a lot of different cities, not just one, and you'll get banned across all of them. So like I said, I hope you guys are able to take this information to heart and actually listen. If you guys would like to reach out to me in terms of knowing which servers to avoid, like I said, feel free, go ahead and reach out to me and I'll let you know. If you guys have any other questions as well, feel free to ask them in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a great day. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.